Welcome, everyone, to the 10th Annual Society of Creation Conference. For those of you that are joining us at a distance via Zoom, hopefully you didn't have too much trouble getting on there. Tonight, we're beginning at 5:30. Tomorrow, we will begin at 9 a.m. You should have in your packet, you should have a schedule. We're going to do our best to stick to those schedules there. We'll try to begin times that you see there. Yeah. How can it set up professional audio? No, I don't want to do that. Okay. For those of you that see the Zoom thing on the side, I get tired of trying to remember all the different keystrokes to how do I put Zoom down and bring it back up. So it's just going to be sitting there if that's okay with you. It's okay with you? Good. I tell people I hate technology. People ask me what I do. I'm a professor of computer science. There's a big difference between computer science and technology, but that's for another day. Our focus on our 10th annual conference is the origin of diverse kinds of life. We're going to talk about what that means, and we have a number of experts who are going to share their insights with you, the origin of diverse kinds of life. Before we get into this at all, I want to say thank you. This conference is you. I would like to ask a favor. If this is your first time, I want you to raise your left hand. If you've been here before, raise your right hand. First time, raise your left hand. If you've been here before, raise your right hand. Okay, good. I have no idea what that is. But see, I like techniques where, you don't be the only one raising your hand, right? So everybody raises their hand. But in all seriousness, thank you. The conference is really all about you. It's the people here, both on campus, as we're moving back up post-pandemic. Yeah, we have had people here before, more than this. Look, okay? So we've had this room filled a number of times. That's not happening today. For those of you at a distance, I wonder what my preset is at. For those of you at a distance, I know you can't see out here. We had about 40 people registered to be in person, maybe another that many online, and we're not quite all here yet. That is okay. In your conference bag are just a bunch of silly things. In order to save funding from the Society of Creation, I ripped off my department, the computer science department. But inside, you'll find some sunglasses. You're going to need those because of the brilliance of our speakers. Okay? So you may want to just get those ready and put them on. In addition, you'll find a brain. You absolutely are going to need another brain to soak up what's going on here, too. There is one real thing in your bag. Somewhere in there, there's a little fossil. And I know a number of us will be talking about fossils. I'll do that some later. But there's a little fossil in there for you. If you don't like yours, trade with a friend. But here's the point. Fossils are great evidence for creation. We have been somehow sold a bill of goods that fossils and the evolution model go hand in glove. But in actual fact, fossils are a great testimony to the creation model. Most of these fossils were uncovered by a friend of mine. Got to make sure I get his last name. What's Mark's last name? A friend of mine. What's his name? Pastor Mark Porinsky. Most of these are coral fossils found in Wisconsin. Some I dug up. Those are the ones that don't look like anything but a piece of rock. But those of you got something that really looks like coral, then Pastor Mark did that. There's also either a silver or gold coin. Ooh, okay, so look for that also. One of the things I like about the Society of Creation is we promote a full model of creation. Every model, every idea of origins has to answer four big questions, the four major origins. The origin of the universe, the origin of life, the origins of diverse life, and the origin of human beings. We've been on a rotation, so we talk about these things in order, and then in between we throw in things like the age of the earth and theistic evolution. So 2 times ago online, we talked about the origin of the universe, and last time the origin of life, and then this time the origin of diverse forms of life. If you're wondering what that means, we'll get to that for sure. We all recognize that there's great diversity of life on planet Earth. So the question is, where did that diversity come from? As you'll see, the creation model offers a very reasonable, a scientifically sensible explanation for all the diversity of life on Earth. The Society of Creation, here's the plug for the organization that's hosting this, was founded in 2011. Our charter is to provide support, education, affirmation, and encouragement for those who teach the historic position of the LCMS on the doctrine of creation and to affirm the biblical position on creation. So we wanted to work within our Concordia University system and help promote this. And we've expanded, talking to lots of different people about that. You probably want to know our origin story. Where did the Society of Creation come from? Well, I happen to have a rare picture of the founders as they met in 2011. That, I will tell you, was a very hot day as we met on the suburbs of Chicago. Actually, we are not Larry, Moe, and Curly, although maybe we are. The founders are Andrew Steinman, Joel Heck, and myself. But if you want to know, Joel Heck is the brains and the brawn of the Society of Creation. He does all the heavy lifting. He has invested lots of time and talents and his own personal treasure into making this thing a reality. And speaking of which, he, if it weren't for the endowment fund that he set up, wouldn't be able to, put on something like this without a little bit of funds coming in. And I do want to thank you because you paid to come here. And that goodie bag, I know, is well worth it for sure. You'll find somewhere in your bag a schedule. We have done so many different venues. We've done 3 days, we've done 1 day, we've done afternoons, morning. Nothing is going to work out well for everybody. So if you made the effort to come here and going at 5:30, would you rather be eating dinner/supper? I understand. We have 2 of our keynoters this evening. This is spectacular stuff. We hope to be done by 9. If they're not done, just feel free to leave. When we have a break and when it's time to come back together, again, I want to stick to the schedule as much time-wise as humanly possible. Cheryl Heck will be playing to get us back in, and we'll probably have a song in between here. But for those of you that have not been here before, if you go out, for those of you on Zoom, you probably know where the restroom is. If you do, please don't put it in the chat. Okay. But for those of you here on campus, go out and around. There are small number of snacks and water and lemonade right there. Continue all around there, and there are restrooms. If you want to find the vending machines, you go around and down this hallway and through a couple doors into a big student area. It's just straight, and somebody can help you with that. Our Saturday schedule should also be there listed in your folder. I didn't talk about your folder because there's something special in that, so we have to do that in just a minute. Lunch is on your own. We have some minimal snacks here, but I'm sorry to say lunch is on your own. And for folks that are here on campus, the Highland Road Bridge has been taken down because they are widening I-43 and they're going to make an interchange right there. So if you want to get to Port Washington Road, County W, where you'll find some food, you either have to go south on Lakeshore Drive and then over on Mequon Road, and there's some things right there. Or you go north on Lakeshore Drive to County C, go over to Port Washington, up a little bit, and there's some food there also. Ask one of us if you'd like some more information. Let me just give you a little insight into some of our presenters. Over the years, we've had some tier 1, very outstanding presenters. And this year is no exception. When I look back at the folks that have come to speak for us, I mean, I'm impressed. Let me start off with Matthew. He said, think chair, hat, and tea. Chair, hat, tea. Now, if you say that together really quickly, it's his name, okay? And it's not his fault. He was born in Hungary. And he has taken an anglicized name also, Matthew. And okay, so Dr. Matthew Chaharte has a PhD in bioinformatics and an undergraduate degree in software development. And he also has a master's in religion. Good for him. He's written a number of articles. I know he worked for a time for, is it CMI you're at, Matthew? Okay, Creation Ministries International for a time. He's written lots of papers. He's very active in the Creation Research Society. He's online trying to keep people in line in their reflector lots also too. He's currently a clinical statistician at a pharma company. His hobbies include drawing cartoons. I've asked him to do a caricature of me. So far, he's declined to do it. Learning languages. He's read the Bible in 10 languages. This spring, I was on sabbatical doing research into an ancient German computer scientist, and I had to read Latin and German. That did not work well. But to be able to read in multiple languages, my hat is off to him. Okay, very good. He's going to talk about some other accomplishments. So, Matthew, thank you for being here. Excellent. Our second tier 1 presenter is Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson. Nathaniel is currently with Answers in Genesis, and they like to talk about the curse of Ham. Ken Ham there, apparently. Nathaniel has his BS in molecular biology and bioinformatics from the University of Wisconsin Parkside, his PhD in cell and developmental biology from an unaccredited institution. Is it still true that Harvard is not accredited? I think that's true, right? Harvard never thought, okay, I'm sorry. He has his PhD from Harvard University. He's the author of several books, including Replacing Darwin, The New Origin of Species, Replacing Darwin Made Simple. My wife told me, get that one, dear. And then Traced Human DNA's Big Surprises. He grew up in Wisconsin, but married a Southern belle. Good for him. They have 4 children. Did I add one to you? No? Okay. Good. And his wife is, how can his wife be German? No, his mother was German, right? So he spent some time abroad, and I know that will bring a lot to what he's talking about. He enjoys other cultures, and I guess that's why he and Matthew get along so well. Our third presenter is our founder, Dr. Joel Heck. I love this picture of Joel. You like this one, Joel? I could have used a better picture, but I don't know. There's so much. This is the Mount Rushmore look of Dr. Joel Heck. One thing, and in all seriousness, Joel and I have been colleagues for a very long time because we're both really old. But if you haven't heard Joel talk before, he's got a great voice. He should have been the speaker for the Lutheran Hour. He's got a great voice. Currently, Dr. Heck is professor of theology at Concordia University, Texas, in Austin, Texas, the executive editor of the Concordia University Press, a fellow of the Hill Country Institute for Contemporary Christianity. His doctor of theology is from Concordia Seminary. He's been married to his wife, Cheryl, for 46 years this year, I bet. Joel doesn't know. Okay, we won't. No. Okay, been married a while there. They have 3 grown children, grandchildren, Joel? 3 grandchildren. Excellent. And in addition to his work in theology and creation, Joel's an expert on C.S. Lewis. So look that up. The last presenter is me. For those of you who don't know, in class, I always do a Chuck Norris shtick. So students would start groaning right now. But anyway, that's me, or at least how I think of myself, and nobody else does. Presentation, we're going to try to present for 60 minutes, and then allow 15 minutes for questions and answers. I will try to moderate those. For those of you online at Zoom, there is a Q&A button. You can put things in there, and I'll try to switch back and forth between Q&A. For those of you who are on campus, we can just raise our hand and be set for that. If some of the presentations go a little long, we'll understand. You should also know that I'm making every effort, in addition to streaming all the presentations for those of you at a distance, to record these also. They will be available after the fact, and you'll find information on how to get to them either at the societyofcreation.org website or on my YouTube page. We can talk about that later. In your conference folder, in addition to the schedule that you've already seen, there are a number of other things. There's a lot of handouts that relate to things that I'll be talking about. And the reason that I did that is because I am talking at the very end, 2:45 p.m. on Saturday. Most of you will be gone by then. So this way you'll have something to take with you of the presentation. Thank you. Oh, the other thing that's in your folder is a $100 bill, just as a thank you. Now, if you did not get that $100 bill, you talked to Joel Heck. Okay, he was the one that was stuffing the $100 bills in there. And if they're not in there, I don't know where they went. Okay. A couple things that I want to say really briefly. I will say more in my talk, and I know you're going to hear about it in the talks from the other speakers also. Everybody here knows about the importance of creation. I think that goes without saying. We know that the meaning of anything is connected to its origin. If you want to know about life, you have to know about the origin of life. So the connection between creation and many topics, especially life, that came up in the news today, is fundamental. But in addition to that, there's lots of other things that I'm interested in, from transhumanism to transgenderism. Those ideas directly relate to the doctrine of creation, as does my personal favorite, the myth of neutral technology, but that's just for some other time. I think creation serves as a great apologetic. Paul, before the Athenians here, when you look at how Paul did this, if you read Acts 17, it parenthetically says, Acts 17, verse 21, all the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. And Paul jumped into that beautifully. He says, men of Athens, as I walked around and looked at all of your objects of worship, I was really impressed. I even noticed an altar to an unknown God. Now, as you worship something unknown, let me tell you who this is. This is the God who made the heavens and the earth. That is a great technique. In my presentation, I'm going to talk about something called apologetics CPR. It's not my idea. I ripped it off from my daughter, who is a professional apologist. She talks about when you do apologetics, you got to do three things. Number one, clarification. When you're speaking with somebody, ask them questions. Well, didn't Darwin prove that all life had a common ancestor? I don't mean flippantly, I mean seriously ask questions. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by proof? What do you mean common ancestor? Really get to know the other position. That is vital. The second step of apologetics is to then present positive evidences. Well, that's really interesting, what Richard Dawkins says. Can I tell you why I believe the creation model is more reasonable? Here are some positive evidences that show creation is a valid idea. And then the third aspect of apologetics is refutation. Yes, you will have to show what's false. I've had many people level this charge against me. Oh, creation. All you do is point out the problems with evolution. No, that's not true. It is okay to do so. But personally, I like to begin with the positive evidences for creation. If you're interested in my material, I got a one-page sheet that sort of takes one of my daughter's books and simplifies it a little bit. If you're interested in learning more about apologetics, this is a blatant nepotistic thing saying, here's her book. Okay. One of the grandpapas of computer science, Blaise Pascal, you've likely heard of him, 17th century philosopher. Pascal said, it's important when you're discussing things, natural philosophy, like maybe theology, religion, or even creation, that you show both sides. You have to talk legitimately, accurately about both sides. I have been so blessed to teach at Concordia University Wisconsin for a very long time. And I have been so supported by the science faculty. I teach computer science, but when I first got here, the chair of science, Dr. Phil Arnholt, and then his successor, Dr. Help me, Michael. Don Corte. And then the current chair of science, Dr. Michael Young, have graciously allowed me to teach a class in cosmogony. That class is on origins, where the first third of the class we present evolution the way an evolutionary scientist would do it. You need to understand evolution. And then the next third is to present creation the way a creationary scientist would do it. And then the final third is the free-for-all. But in addition to showing both sides, Pascal said, if you want to talk with somebody and help them see your point, be sure that you show them that what part of their side is true. If you just say, oh, evolution, that's a bunch of hokey, nobody's going to listen to you if they accept evolution. Can you point out what is true about the evolution model? And then get them to see, oh, there is another side to the argument. Well, we'll see how that plays out. One thing that I will emphasize time and again when I talk about creation is a reasonable idea. To listen to Bill Nye or Richard Dawkins, creation is the worst thing since Windows 95 or Microsoft Bob or Internet Explorer. I mean, it's horrible. It's terrible. Actually, creation is reasonable. It's sensible scientifically. It's lucid logically. Creation makes a lot of sense. It's a reasonable explanation. And you likely know this. This is what Paul says in Romans 1. What do you say? For his, God's invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So people are without excuse. Creation is a reasonable idea. I'm going to hold off on this, but especially if you're a Lutheran, you've probably heard that Martin Luther said, reason, that's terrible. We never want to use that. Well, not exactly. You know what? God made us as rational human beings. It's okay to use reason as long as you know what reason serves. I have this great quote. Missed it. I'll say this at the very end of mine, but I want you to keep in mind as you're listening to everybody else. This is my practical advice. I'm going to skip those things. And I'm going to go right to this last point. If you want to interact with other people about creation, pick one evidence. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything that there is about every specific. People tell me all the time, well, what about this fossil? What about that supernova? Well, you know what? I don't know. But I do know information theory. Let's talk about that. Pick one evidence that connects with you. Learn it well and be able to share it. Listen to the other side. But then you could bring in your positive evidence too. Most important, all the rest of this pales. The purpose of creation is not to win arguments, is not to pat yourself on the back, is not to be. The purpose of creation is to point to Christ. There is no reason to talk about creation if it's not used as an apologetic. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. I want to begin this conference. One of my mentors is the sainted Reverend Dr. John Saleska. And one thing I learned from Dr. John Saleska was hymns are a great way to pray. Extemporaneous prayer. I mean, I have a hard time with that, elder of the church. Hey, you want to lead us in prayer? No, not really. But hymns. You thought about how many hymns mention creation? The answer is many. By the way, computer science, there are only 3 numerical answers to any question. 0, 1, many. So the answer is many. This is the hymn by the Scotsman. What was Smith's? Walters? Anyway, Smith. Right? Immortal, invisible, God only wise. In light inaccessible, hid from our eyes. Most blessed, most glorious, O ancient of days. Almighty, victorious, your great name we praise. All life you engender in great and small. To all life we render the true life of all. We blossom and flourish in richness and range. We wither and perish, but you never change. So let me ask the blessing on all of you and on our conference. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious to us. The Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace.
Amen.
Thank you.